you said this really fast, but you just said he was your first relationship. Did you say that?
Yeah, he was my first real relationship. Yes. I never really
Wow.
dated anybody or was exclusive with anybody. It was always either a situationship or no string. Like it was just not. I never brought anybody home like that, and never mentioned anybody. My mom would ask for prospects, and my dad would be like, "Anybody?" I'm like, "Nope."
Wow, you married
There.
your
So
first
yeah,
relationship.
he was the first person I had married, my first relationship. He was my
Okay.
first Valentine. The relationship, even the dating phase, I never was with anybody during Valentine's Day.
Lucretia had never been in a relationship before. She decided to take a break from dating to focus on God, healing, and becoming whole again. DJ was in the same place, burnt out, discouraged. He stepped away from dating too, convinced that if love was going to happen, it would have to happen differently. Then, at a moment neither of them expected, they met each other online in January. What started as a simple conversation turned into something neither of them expected. At 30 years old, it became Lucretia's very first relationship, her first love, and just 1 month later in February, her very first Valentine. Today, Lucretia and DJ have been married for almost 10 years. I'm Dee Dee Patterson, and on this channel, I share real stories of couples who found lasting love online because I want you to believe in love again and see that dating apps really can lead to marriage. After all, I met my husband of 15 years on a dating app too. Lucretia and DJ's story is proof that it's not too late to have a successful love life and that dating apps can lead to your very first Valentine and so much more.
Hello, welcome to another episode. We have DJ and Lucretia Haley with us today.
How's it going?
Hello. Hi. So we're just going to get started with the first question. What do you both do for a living? And I kind of already know, but I'm going to still ask you. Who wants us to go first?
Well, sure. For a living, we would love to share what we do from a day to day, and then we'll share like what we do as coaches.
Yeah.
So for myself, I work at a scholarship organization. So I work primarily with
Hmm.
college students.
And I
Okay.
work for the post office.
Everybody knows about the post.
Oh,
Everybody but the post office. I'm not a carrier though. I work in
cool.
maintenance.
And, and as far as relationship coaches, basically we help teach Christian singles how to date with confidence and cultivate relationships that lead to love and commitment. And so we're certified life coaches and relationship coaches in the space. We also work in ministry with our church, with the marriage and family
Hmm.
ministry, helping couples with premarital coaching and getting along with the assessments and seeing if
Yeah.
they want to go along with being married. Anything else, I?
Helping relationships and everything like
Mhm.
that. We've been successful with like three so far.
Going to big three.
We're going to be 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had 2 events with our own intentional events.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so we basically work with Christian singles. We host intentional Christian dating events, is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And basically, we teach, we have a panel, and we help singles in that space have a safe place to where they can date. So we vet, we work with single men and single women on that final night
Good.
and leading them to hopefully see if there's a match. If not, that's okay too. We let them know that it's just a time for you to learn about yourself and learn how to date, communicate, have conversations. So.
I love it. I love meeting other coaches and then hearing what you do. I love it. So you said you vet the guys and the females before they actually come to the event. Like they can't even come to the event until you vet them to make sure that they're straight. Is that what happens?
The other way
Yeah, the other way.
around.
Well, they can still come to the event. It's just the dating portion is where we vet people
Yeah.
to see if they can move forward. It's not in a way of like, oh, you're doing terrible. No, it's nothing like that. It's more of just to see where you at where it comes to dating, because a lot of times we get into any kind of dating situation or something like that when we got stuff going on. It's kind of like to see where you at. Are you actually following God? Are you actually doing what you believe in?
Yeah.
Being intentional. That's our main thing, is being
Yeah.
intentional in what you do, as far as, like, hey, are you actually reading the Bible and stuff like that? Like, we ask those questions. Everything's like God based.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we're looking for you to like have somewhat of the foundation building to see where you're at, and not in a way to like, oh, well, you're doing terrible. Like, no, it's like maybe there's some things you need to work on before we can move on to the next spot, because we want it to where everybody's on the same mindset.
And that's the
Okay.
commonality with it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, what we've gotten as far as feedback is they like that portion because it creates a safe place for them where they don't have to guess
Mm,
if this
good.
person is really living for Christ, or, even the conversations, their attention with coming to the event, it's already erased. It's coming like with a clear picture, it's clarity already. So it's easy to have conversation. It's easy to laugh. It's easy to not feel
Good.
like you have to put on or perform. So that's why what makes our program so unique.
I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. And you do it for both the guys and the girls. Like you
Yes.
vet both of them to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Very good. All right, we might come back up to what you guys are doing, but we'll jump in to like how long have you guys been married?
We're going on 10 years.
Yeah.
She
10
says
years.
9.5, but automatically go to 10.
It's because we reached a new year. I
Yeah.
say 9.5. We got married June 11th. And so
June
that's
11th will be 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Plan for the 10 year.
We're still planning.
we're still in the planning
Hopefully
phase.
we take a trip.
Yeah, we are thinking of planning something locally with friends and family just to celebrate, and then also
Good.
like a big trip for us
Yeah.
so we can get out and get away and celebrate. So that's something at least that we know of that we're trying to plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been married for 10 years. What site did you meet on?
Ooh.
Yeah. We met on Plenty of Fish.
Plenty of fish.
It's still around. Yeah, we met on Plenty of Fish. It was one of those things where, I had different sites that I was going for or going on, and I did not do the
Mm-hmm.
paid version of Plenty of Fish. I did the
Interesting.
paid version. I accidentally paid into like a 3-month subscription with eHarmony because I forgot to get
Oh,
out of the free trial. And so I was
okay.
like, well, I guess I got to stay on eHarmony.
It took his money.
Right. And so
Interesting.
I did meet a few cool people on there, but Plenty of Fish is where we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very interesting that you met on Plenty of Fish and not eHarmony when you had to pay subscription for eHarmony.
Right.
Very because
Exactly.
eHarmony is known as the married site. So, okay.
Mhm.
So then how did you meet on Plenty of Fish? Who wants to tell their side of the story first?
You go first.
Okay. I'll lead into the
Yeah.
Yeah. I was on a trip to see my auntie in Minnesota with my dad. He did like one of them spontaneous, hey, let's go kind of thing. So I went with him. The crazy part about how we met was even though I had Plenty of Fish on my phone, I forgot that I had on my phone because I basically stopped dating. Like 2 years prior, basically I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna follow God. And it was like a roller coaster. It was just like one thing after another, and then led on to this trip. I basically was like just full head going for a guy. So I didn't think nothing about dating. My dad was like, hey, while we was going up there, he was like, hey, there's some frozen lakes up there and everything. We see people driving on it. Somebody was doing donuts with their truck. He was like, hey, we should probably go over there. I was like, all right, we ain't doing nothing else. So we went over there. He put the car on the lake. That was the crazy part. So we got out and we stand on the lake, and I felt my phone, basically it was like notification was buzzing and stuff. And I was like, okay. I'm thinking maybe somebody sent me a text message. To come to find out it's a message from Plenty of Fish. I'm still not
Mm,
thinking it's an actual person. I'm thinking it's one of them notifications from like, sometimes the owners send you something like, hey, we got a new update or something. I'm thinking it's that.
right.
Come to find out it's a real person. It's her. I was like, oh,
Okay.
somebody's actually messaging me, which was crazy because that usually never happens. That's how she got in contact with me. She sent me.
Okay.
Yeah. So from my end, it was basically going back to me. I had stopped dating previous to me even messaging him. I was on a
Mm-hmm.
pause because I was exhausted with dating online and doing everything. So about 6 months prior to that, I had stopped and I was like, you know what, God, I'm just coming back to you. I'm gonna get back to me
Mm,
when it comes to like finding my hobbies, hanging with friends, reading my word, just really trying to make sure that the next time I'm intentional. But I was like, I'm good, I'm okay. And so I had went to I'm originally from California. I went back home,
mm-hmm.
and it was a time for me to get rejuvenated being with my mom and my dad. I didn't know it then, but it was my last trip with them that I had together with me by myself. We always take trips,
Okay.
always go somewhere with them in California. Went to the beach and we were able to just hang out and to really just be in a place to where reflective. And my mom kind of ministered to me there, and she saw future. She was like, look, listen, Creature, we got all this going on for you. You're going to go back home. You're going to live life. You're going, she was really pouring into me. Got back into we live in Kansas City, got back to Kansas City, and at that time, I was like, you know what? I think I could go back on. I could try this thing again.
Hmm.
Just take a stab at it.
Wow.
I'm gonna just go and see what happens. I don't know. And I don't know, this might be my last time, but I'm at least go on there. And so as I go back on, there's a few guys that I message. It's funny because
Yeah.
I went back to my emails to see the timeline of all of this because I didn't realize, I don't know
Okay.
what it is. I was like, was he the only guy I messaged? Like, was there any? I don't know. I don't remember. So he was not the only guy that I was talking to initially, but I do remember messaging him and we just
Okay.
so I don't remember exactly what I said. More than likely it was hi.
I don't remember.
But I looked at his profile and I saw the initial green flags that you would see as far as like he seemed like he was in the Lord's in some way. I don't know how much.
Okay.
Didn't know, but I was like, okay, well, he seems like I could just probably ask questions. Seemed cool, calm, collected. His picture was like I saw he had a job because he had his postal shirt
I
on
have my posted shirt.
in the photo
Hmm.
Yeah.
along with other pictures. So it was like, okay, I see this. And it wasn't the typical guy that I would actually reach out to, but I'm like, I want to give this a shot. It's online. Like, go for it. So that's kind of how that happened. And then we decided I think we messaged each other back and forth.
Yeah, for a minute we was messaging back and forth. I think until I got back, that's when we actually did a phone call.
Yeah, we did a phone call. And then I think we met up 2 weeks later
Yep.
after that.
Okay. So you met 2 weeks after you
Mhm.
first started talking to each other in the dating app.
Yeah.
And then you said he's not the typical guy you would send a message to. What about him made him not the typical guy?
I don't know. Like when I was dating before, it was more of I was looking for sometimes it was the dark skinned guy or the suited individual.
Hmm.
He looked like professional. Like it was more of
Okay.
a white collar, kind of position.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I didn't kind of float over to the other side too much because I'm like, I don't know. I really didn't know what I was doing. And that's the reason why I became a coach or we became coaches because honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have it perfect. Now that I see as I'm the lens of the me now looking back, I was like, oh, you just didn't know what you were doing. So you
Okay.
didn't know who to talk to, why to talk to them, if you when
Right.
initially it's okay to go outside of your box, go outside of what you initially said you were going to go. Like there shouldn't be a type. Truth be told, shouldn't be a type.
Okay. So another thing I found very interesting is you sent the message to him. I also sent a message to my husband first. And I know that there's a thing in the church sometimes about the women kind of making the first move. What are your thoughts on that? On the woman kind of making the first move?
Well, it is kind of outside the norm because like I said before, I was like, oh, somebody actually messaged me because it's not a normal thing that happened. Like I've actually we talked about this before. I actually did a test before where we made a fake account and the woman got like 150 messages. It was like within an hour. And then like for me, I was just like, I barely get one or two messages within the month.
Mm,
I know it
interesting.
depends on the guy. Some guys might get one more during a week or something, but it is out the norm. It's not part of, the role that we put on ourselves. So did it feel good? Oh yeah, it felt great. It's like, oh, it's actually come talking to me. Okay, cool. Like I think if it was in person, I would not know what to do. Just
Okay.
just because of how I am talkative wise, I would have been like, I don't know what's going on right now. I don't know if she's just talking to me because she's friendly or she's talking to me because she likes me. I don't know which one.
And that's what I think is some of the things that's misconstrued right now when it comes to that
Hmm.
is there are some men who aren't that open
Mm.
to like they're
Hmm.
not the extroverted first off. They're just not. They're
Right.
not talkers, they're not communicators. So to come outside of a box and to approach someone or if she approaches or I should say if she invites you to conversation. I won't use the word approach because
Yeah.
if she invites you to conversation then it's like, what do
Right.
I do? I don't know her intentions. Like he is being careful too. And I think we don't think of that. We think, oh, he didn't talk to me back. He must not be. No, as much as you're cautious, he is too, especially if he's a Christian
Right.
man and
Yeah.
intentional
They
and
are.
you didn't come the right way. That doesn't mean he has to talk to you or has to pursue you. I think it has to go the other way around on that. Can women be rejected as well when we do that? Yes. A lot of that is also our insecurities, and we have to grapple with sometimes, just as well as men, and we have to put ourselves in their shoes. Oftentimes, we don't know what they're going through in order to try to get up the confidence to walk up to somebody. That could be a
Right.
whole lot for that man to do. And we're just saying, oh, you got to do it. You have to.
Right.
There is a plethora of ways someone can be someone. It does not have to always be him coming up to you.
Good. So when you're coaching, you could use tell people can go either way, that the
Yeah.
guy or the girl can send a message first.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We actually right now we're working with a young woman, I should say, a woman. We're working with someone right now, and she's like, I want to start off. I want to try this dating app thing. Can y'all help me? You know, and I think that's
Mm,
the best way to go. Like, or I want to try like walking with someone as accountability and to help you is probably the best way you can do it if you're fearful
Yeah.
of doing that.
right.
And so
Good.
that's the advice. And there's no cookie cutter way. There isn't a way to be like, you have to do it XYZ to get the 1, 2, 3s. We have
Right.
to know that everybody's different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good.
Oh, I was about to say we also give her tools in order to help talk to someone, just in general, just not just to go up to a
True.
man and talk, but one of the ones which is my seems to be my favorite move now because I helped with somebody else with the same thing is basically just talk to someone that's stationary, like like a cashier. They can't go nowhere, so talk to them for a little bit or something. Say hi, ask them about their day, get used to actually
Yeah.
starting those, icebreaker kind of questions or something like that. So then when you actually go talk to someone that you're actually interested in,
Mm.
you can
Hmm.
basically know how that feels instead of just like, I'm just straight nervous.
Right. Good. Yeah, I just found that interesting that you sent this first message and then it sounded like DJ was surprised to get a message from someone. So
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
good. And
Mhm.
I guess the way that Plenty of Fish works, like even though it's been years since you've been on,
Mhm.
your profile was still there for some reason, DJ.
Yeah, pretty much. I forgot to deactivate it.
Oh, you mean you talking about now?
Oh,
It's still there?
Oh no,
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 when he got the
I
message from
deleted that.
you.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. When you're not on it, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
still.
was still there. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. Probably a few weeks later, what you said you went on your first date.
hmm
Yep.
Okay. So how did that go? How was the first date? What was that like?
I was very talkative.
No, go back to the
I'm about to
back
go.
to
I'm
the
about to go.
initial.
I'm about to go back.
You missing a whole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So first, I want to make sure you're safe. Move. Basically, I was like, all right, basically we pick the dating spot, but I want her to make sure she was comfortable where we was going. So I asked her, it's like, hey, maybe a place that's closer to you, if you don't have to drive that far, where you're more comfortable with, so you can tell your friends, like, hey, I'm over here, or something like that. So we chose the bowling alley, and
Okay.
we met up. I didn't go pick her up. She didn't come to me. We just met up in the parking lot of the place, and I didn't know her game plan as far as safety, but I was just trying to make sure she
Neutral
knew
place.
and had a neutral place to go to. Yeah, so we basically met in the parking lot of the bowling alley, and I think this was like very first time seeing each other in person. So I had my fro at the time.
Okay.
And no facial
And no
hair.
facial hair. For some reason that time, I cut it before she messaged me. For some reason that time, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna cut my facial hair. I was out there in the cold, just light skinned and bright.
Just bright.
God. Anyway, because that was one of her first questions, like, can you grow any hair on your face? I'm like, yes.
That can happen.
Yes, that can happen. So the bowling was good. It's kind of like the icebreaker part
Yeah.
where you're just trying to see
Mhm.
engage and stuff like that. It was good enough to where we was like, hey, let's go eat somewhere. And I keep messing this up every time. It's
What?
it's Chili's, right?
Yeah, we went to Chile.
We went to Chili's.
Hmm.
Yeah.
On your first date, you went to Chili's?
For our
First day.
first day, we
Yeah,
went
we
to
went to
Chili's.
Chili's.
This is
And
right when on my first date. Okay.
Really?
nice.
I
Yes.
did.
So many similarities.
I know.
Pretty sure the waitress, well, no, it was a waiter.
I don't remember
I
that. I
don't
don't remember
remember.
that much. Did you talk?
Whoever was serving us, the server, was probably getting irritated because I was talking so much that we didn't order food for like a minute.
That was the second time.
That was the second time?
Hmm.
Well, I feel like both times.
It's because they're both those type of restaurant, Applebee's and Chili's.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah.
Either way, I was
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He was
was.
yeah, and when I say he was talking, it was like he would bring up scenarios in his childhood and different things, and it wasn't like I was bored.
It wasn't nothing dark either.
Yeah, it was just like different things that he would have, and I didn't have nothing back. Like, and also because again, his communication style, he's just talking. He wouldn't know to ask a question back, and I was, but for this,
Interesting.
I was okay because I'm like, man, he talking. I mean, I'm good. Like, I don't have nothing to match that. Like, I ain't never been to nothing like
Okay.
that. Like, I don't, I don't know what to say back. But the fact that he was sharing about himself showed that he was
Mm-hmm.
opening up. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'm sure there'll be other times that I could talk, whatever it is. So, and that happened later on. But it was just that was the first impression, conversation.
Story after story after story
Yeah, I
after
got
story.
another story. Oh yeah, and then you would say like, "Are you okay?
You good? You
You good?
good? All
Can I
right.
share this other story?"
Let's go next story. Yeah,
So he was just like doing all the talking and you weren't really saying anything back.
which is very rare.
I would ask more. Like I would say, "Oh, well, tell me. Okay, so what happened after that?" I was like, "So what happened was,
Okay.
so I would be
That,
in
that,
it because I'm like intrigued by the story.
Okay.
why?
Okay.
Mm.
Because you was intrigued, and I was
And,
like, oh, she want
and
to hear
then,
more? All
and
right.
then I was like, I don't have nothing to match that. Like I don't have any exciting, any death-defying.
But were you annoyed with him talking the whole time or you were okay with it?
I was
How
okay.
are you feeling, Lucretia? Okay. You were okay with it.
I was okay with
Okay.
him talking, I guess, because I'm the talker all the time. And
Okay.
this is me again looking back to that is I'm always talking. I'm the extroverted. I'm pulling the questions and all that. So I think it was just more of a like I could sit back this time and not have
Okay.
to lead conversations. And so I think I
Mhm.
was okay with that.
Okay, so you had the first date at Chili's. Yay. And then you you talked for a long time, and then you said something about the waitress seemed annoyed, or you said that was the second
Oh
date.
no,
The
that was
first.
the second time.
Yeah, we actually left
Okay.
at a pretty good time from
Okay.
the
No, we
second.
we left out the Chili's a pretty good time. I think we were still talk. Well, I was still talking after the fact.
Yeah, you still talking about well, we left. When we parted ways, I mean. We
Yeah,
didn't stay. Yeah.
no,
The second time was when we stayed there for like 5 hours
yeah,
at like
Oh, wow.
at one
yeah.
restaurant. And then we had switched it. She was like, my shift is done. I have somebody else that's gonna be so that was
Okay.
when we
Yeah.
were there. And that was when we were both going back and forth.
Okay, the second date
The
is when you
second
guys were
one.
going back and forth. But the
Uh-huh.
first date, it was
Hmm.
mostly
Hmm.
it was a little one-sided, but
Yep.
you both felt good.
Yeah,
How
Yeah.
oh
did
yeah.
you guys both feel during that first date?
Oh well, obviously I felt great about it if I kept talking to her like that. So yeah, after the first date and then be able to continue on talking about just whatever stories we had going on or about our days or stuff like that because a lot of times communication usually falls off like towards
Mm-hmm.
after the date or something like that. Things
Right.
when they say the conversation becomes dry, we didn't have that issue.
And that's where usually
Good.
honest
Yeah.
too, even if it didn't go well. This is the test of where it's like, what do you say after that to
Mm.
keep it going or to say, you know what, this is not, you know what I'm saying? So I don't remember honestly what I did, but I know we kept in contact
Yeah, yeah.
with
Okay.
one another after that. And I felt okay. Like it wasn't any turn offs, you know what I'm saying? Like usually there's something like, man, I don't know. It wasn't anything. So I was like, well, if he asked me, and I think we said we were going to get together again,
Hmm.
that made it okay. Like, oh wow, okay, well we're something's happening, right?
Good. And then I didn't ask, like, when you were first on the dating app and you saw Lucretia's, I guess her message popped up, like, what stood out about her message on the dating app that made you eager to start chatting her?
If I remember right, the first thing I usually do was, okay, she messaged me. Before I even answer, I go look at your profile, see what you're about. I read at least the first paragraph about what you put on there because a lot of times they'll let me know what kind of headspace you're in because I've seen some women when they have on there, it just seems angry.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
Men bashing
men
or
bashing, don't
Mhm.
talk to me this
Yeah.
way, but it wasn't that. I do remember it was in a way respectful, but also God fearing, and I know for sure she had on her that it was God, like it was basically
I made sure to have that.
through and through. Everything was God. So I was just like, oh, this is right up my alley. All right,
Hmm.
cool.
Good.
I'm pretty sure that's what cued me in on that. Other than the pictures, the pictures great, but it's
Good.
always like I want to know where your headspace is. Like
Yeah.
you'd be the most beautiful woman, but the wording could be terrible. But
Right.
the fact that she had God, it was like, okay, let me see what you're about.
Yeah, and I want
Good.
to add this too, is as when I looked at his profile, and I think that's where also we get caught up. I don't want to tell anybody to go either which way. You choose however you want to
Yeah.
have conversations with
Mhm.
someone. But I think if he didn't have anything in there about God, I probably wouldn't have said anything to him. But if he had
Hmm.
something in there, or if he didn't like, sometimes it's like I want him to have the whole gamut. I want him to be close to Jesus on his profile. I think some people, especially in Christian faith, we want to see everything. He didn't have that on there,
No.
right? But
Hmm.
if you're dating, like how, especially with online, that place is for you to be able to ask those questions to dive deeper.
Right.
Because a profile is a profile, and some people now, what we would, of course, we would tell men and women now is make sure you put that and make it clear that you're a believer in Jesus Christ. At the time, it was just that, and so we put so much on it when actually the questions that you ask are the pieces of where you're supposed to actually find out. Those conversations is where you would find out.
Good. Okay. So DJ did have something in there that mentioned God, maybe not as much as yours, or
Yeah,
did you have a lot that
you can
mentioned?
have you can have a lot. Period.
I didn't
First of
have a lot,
all.
period.
Okay.
When I say I didn't talk much, that's how my
And
wording
that's
was too.
really why I was intrigued to talk to him more
Yeah.
because I want to know more if he is real,
Okay.
you know.
I'm sure it
Okay.
wasn't one sentence. It was probably two.
It might have, it wasn't more than probably
Okay.
two.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, and I think I remember one thing he said on there too was that either he doesn't like or I don't my turn off or something is like he doesn't like people with
Assumptions.
assumptions, making assumptions. And so that was
Hmm.
something that
Okay.
caught me a little bit too,
Yeah.
was that
That's
piece.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. So then going back to the first date, I always ask people, was it love at first sight for you guys? What were your thoughts when you first saw each other?
Infatuation, but I don't know about love at first sight. I was still cautious.
Right.
It
Okay.
wasn't love at first sight. And I mean I don't want to say like
God.
it's
It
not
wasn't.
definitely not. Whoa, no, X to that. No.
No. No, I
Most
like
people say
I,
no, so
yeah.
don't feel bad.
No,
No, I definitely say infatuation though. It was like, ooh,
I,
okay. Oh
yeah.
well.
It was more like I want to get to know more kind
Yeah.
of thing. God, is this
Okay.
real? Is this the person you want me to continue with? Like, I don't know, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. And then after the date, how long did it take for you guys to become exclusive?
I want to say in March. So we met in, I know I said that. You're like, what, March? How much
Yeah.
time is that? And so we met in January,
Hmm.
Okay.
around
That took a couple
January.
months.
Exactly. Yep.
Uh-huh.
That's so all this around this time is always a time where I get a little giddy because it's the same time frame. In March is when he made it official.
Hmm.
And so
Okay.
about close to almost 3 months was about that.
Why did it take 3 months?
Yeah, why did it take 3 months?
Yet again, I keep getting these mixed up. It wasn't the baptism part, right?
No, it
No, that
wasn't.
was after that.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I was, like I said, I was still being cautious about things, seeing where,
Hmm.
and also trying to figure out if this was kind of like the right move. And it wasn't in a way where it's like, oh, she's doing any confusing things and nothing like that. It was still like, okay, this is going very well. I need to
Hmm.
figure out what we doing next, that kind of thing, because I was still intentional about being in a relationship and being married, but I was
Mm-hmm.
also in a way cautious too because I didn't want to just be like, okay, this seems too good to be true. But it was more like I know she was testing me on things, and also I was like trying to see. Basically, I was more seeing if there was a yes in there before actually asking for the yes.
That's good.
So
I
I
know
know
she
you
got.
You
I
have
know
to
she got
explain
more
that one.
questions.
well.
You went to see a yes in there. Good. Yeah, explain that.
So basically, it was more of like, okay, she's being respectful to me. She's not turning my words against me. And you hear that a lot from men and stuff. It's like the respect part, but it wasn't in a way where it was like on the first date she actually wanted to know more, and
Okay.
the conversation between us like basically was like never like except for that first date. It was never really one sided. It was more like, okay, talk, respond. Okay, let me actually listen to what you're saying and respond back, go back and forth. And it was actually a learning experience too because I don't know if we started going over books at that time either. We might have.
Yes.
Yeah, we started going over books, which I usually never do.
So we watch it. Like I had already had like a vault of different resources and things that I've gathered through the single
Hmm.
phase and that I've captured or whatever. So as I'm going through it, I'm like, hey, it'd be good for you to join me in these things, so it was
Hmm.
PDFs, it was book readings, it was
PDFs.
videos on YouTube that I saved and all those things. And so
Good.
whenever we were together or whenever I was like, hey, you want to talk about this? You want to, so we were already working in the not even official yet
Yeah.
phase,
Right.
going towards something. So
Which that intrigued me because
Okay.
I'm already about stats in a way. So I was just like, hey, all right, yeah, give me some more stuff. What else you got?
yeah. So it wasn't more like, oh, she forced me into
No,
doing all this,
no.
and I did, yeah. So,
Because I would have said no if that was the case.
yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So when you were looking for a yes, you just wanted to, I guess, verify that that she was going to say yes before you actually asked her. Is that
Yeah, like
accurate?
because you could end up, which you've heard and probably seen people end up in situationships because there's no actual yes in that. And
Hmm.
if there was a yes, it was like delayed or they give you some like you don't want to end up asking the question, "What are we?" That kind of problems or anything like that. So I was more looking for like, okay, she seems very interested in me and what I'm doing and following God. And that was the biggest part too, is like I also wanted to show her in a way that I am actually following God. So there were some times where she was well, I'm like, I know she's testing me on that. So it was more like, okay, now I think I'm ready. Just go ahead and throw it out there. I mean, we're pretty much in a good spot where, I can
Hmm.
actually ask that question.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
Right.
and that's one of the things that it was. And I wasn't trying to be like, I knew that I wanted somebody who knew the Lord and had action to it. And so the only way that I could find out if he was for it was to have him join alongside of me. So if he said no, I would know quickly that this wasn't something to pursue. But because he was able to come inside my life and be like, all right, let's do this. Then I saw the action with it. Like he wasn't just talking. It was more like I seen him activate this outside of our conversations. He would tell me what he's doing, going to church, all these things. So it helped me to be like, okay, all right, so he is about it. All right.
Asking you to come to church.
Right.
Gotcha.
Asking me to come to church. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And DJ has said a couple of times that you were testing him.
I knew
Were
you were
you
gonna bring that up.
testing him? Were you?
I was like, she gonna say something about it because he keeps saying it. At
I
the time,
know. Sorry.
right? No, you're fine. At the time, I wouldn't say I was. I guess outside looking in, it looks like that. He
Yeah.
says it is,
Okay.
but I was just really trying to make sure that he was. It wasn't. Could have been maybe overly doing it, possibly. But I was so concerned and cautious that I didn't want to make the wrong decision. And I'm very, very
Mm.
led by God. Like every
Okay.
step that I made was with God in mind. And even as I'm going back through my journals now and I'm looking at the point to where before we met and even during our relationship, I didn't know how much into God I was until I looked at my journal. I was like, good grief, girl, you was really in your Bible. so and so I was really so I wanted to make sure that I didn't go outside of God's will. Testing, it could have been. If you want to say that's what it was, then yes. I wouldn't say
That wasn't all the
I
time.
wouldn't tell nobody to
No.
girl, make sure you test
It
him.
was
So,
Right.
but
Right.
it was
Okay.
more of a intentional questions, asking, making sure, going to accountability, talking to my friends, kind of thing to make sure
Okay.
that this was something to continue in.
Okay. So 2 months after, or 3 months after you were on the dating app, you became official. And
Mhm.
then how long did it take you to get married after you became exclusive in March?
It was December is when I asked.
December is when you proposed. So that same year,
Mm-hmm.
we met on January 15. He proposed December 2015. So Christmas Day.
Christmas.
Okay.
And so,
Ooh,
and then, yep.
nice present.
And then actually, I don't say this often, but I remember it now. 2 days after, because he had left to go back to Kansas City. We're in California
Mm-hmm.
visiting. He came to visit my parents back in California.
Mm.
Like it was a whole thing. Like, oh my gosh, Lucretia's bringing a boyfriend to back. And so it was
Wow.
that thing to where it's like I've never brought anybody, never had a relationship. So this was the first time. But after he proposed, he went back to Kansas City. I stayed with my parents a little bit longer. And 2 days later, I went and found my wedding dress. Like we went to David's bride
Hmm.
because everybody was in town. My aunt, my mom, my sister, my
Wow.
grandmother was there too. She didn't get to come. She was ill at the time, but she didn't get to come with me. But just knowing that I found it and she was there before she passed, it was like this moment.
Oh,
And
okay.
so yeah, 2 days later, I found my wedding dress. And so We were
Wow.
not playing. I said yes to the dress.
I was going to say, you said this really fast, but you just said he was your first relationship. Did you say that?
Yeah, he was my first real relationship. Yes. I never really
Wow.
dated anybody or was exclusive with anybody. It was always either a situationship or no string. Like it was just not. I never brought anybody home like that, and never mentioned anybody. My mom would ask for prospects, and my dad would be like, "Anybody?" I'm like, "Nope," because I
Mm.
was just dating here and
Wow, you married
there.
your
So
first
yeah,
relationship.
he was the first person I had married, my first relationship. He was my
Okay.
first Valentine. I never the relationship or even the dating phase. I never was with anybody during Valentine's Day. And so he was the first time when we met in January. He was
Wow.
my first Valentine to spend like February. And usually I don't really celebrate. Like I'm not in the whole I gotta have a. But it was just the fact that I could be able to go out with somebody on that day and tell my friends,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got somebody. Like. But to answer your question, I don't think
Okay.
we fully answered it. That we got married 6 months in June.
Yeah.
So December all the way to June. We got married that June
Mhm.
following year. So about
So it's like a year and a half
yeah, about a year and a half.
since after you met.
Yep.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I waited until actually going on that trip, one, I knew that everybody was going to be there because grandma,
Mm.
all her family members and stuff. But one of the main reasons was because I needed to talk to your dad
Oh,
in person
Yeah, good.
to ask him first. Although I didn't really ask him, but I did because I was always like, "Oh, be firm." I was a little bit too firm. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna marry your daughter." He's like, "Well, okay."
Right. Well, all right.
All right, so
Okay.
we're gonna do this. Well, it wasn't actually supposed to be that day. It was supposed to be when we went to the pier.
Uh-huh. In San
But
Francisco.
but somehow, some way, people was finding out, so I had to do it that day. At least that's what I was told. Hey, you got to do it.
Mm.
I was like, oh, okay,
Because we were set to go the day after
yeah,
to go to San Francisco because we were in Sacramento. So we're going to ride up there with the family and go hang out.
yeah. I was gonna
And,
ask on
and
the
then you
pier.
was gonna be next to the pier where the water seals in the background,
Seals,
the
birds,
San
and stuff.
Francisco Bay
Yeah.
Bridge, like the Golden Gate. I mean,
Wow.
so it's gonna be all that. Which I mean,
I mean, it still could have
it
happened.
was
Yeah,
yeah, but just being there also, it was the prayer, the
it
Christmas
was
prayer
the
that
longest.
my dad did. My
My
dad always does a
gosh,
Christmas prayer, and then
The longest.
I was like, why is he?
I almost had it. I
Say,
was about to have a heart
you
attack.
have to say first of all, but this is my dad's job.
I know. He's like, hey, DJ, oh God.
So yeah.
Wait, what happened?
I guess it's tradition for them to have their daddy do the prayer, but
Okay.
he did part of the prayer and then called me up
Right.
while
Oh,
he's in
because
the
your
room. And
dad
everybody,
knew.
yeah, and so everybody looking like, why they call him up?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I bend the knee.
Mm.
I don't remember what I said,
I don't remember what he said either. I couldn't
but
tell
I
you.
couldn't tell you. And I wish we could find the video, but it's somewhere.
We cannot find this
I
video
don't know
or
where the
nothing.
video is at.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
lost it. Well, we have pictures.
Okay.
So
So it was during the prayer. So he prayed, stop, and then you did that, and then they prayed again. Is that what happened?
Oh
I
no,
don't even know.
no, prayer
I don't think
prayer
we
did
even.
It
not
was just
continue after
I
that.
think it was just excitement.
Yeah,
We just
it's
went to go eat.
okay. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So then now that you have been married for almost 10 years, DJ, what do you like most about Lucretia?
The fact that she's very goal oriented. There we go. And then on top of that, she enjoys a lot of stuff that I do too. Like she actually is intentional about like not just take me, but reminding me that there's some events or something like that. Like, hey, there's a Japanese event that's coming up. You going
Because he likes Japan.
yeah, like Japan culture. Not only that she gets me to like not everything she joins in on, but she still gets me. Like she still like allows that time and also reminds me like, hey, we still got other stuff to do, but still allows time for me to decompress with certain things and stuff like that. So that's the light part. Now there's the love part on that too.
The love
There's the love part. I know.
Just the way you did that, it just.
I wish I wish I had the glasses at the end of
Dude, put the
love.
bridge
That right there. The fact that she understands my goofiness too,
Yeah.
because I am a lot goofy. And we be goofy together, and we made some kids that are goofy. I'm not saying they are goofy. They goofy.
They're gonna be.
Yeah.
They're not now.
So it's just the fact that we get each other, and there's no like walls up for that. It's just like everything is like back and forth, and we actually communicate, which is you think it's simple, but it's actually complicated.
Nice. What about you, Lucretia? What do you like about DJ now that you guys have Almost been married for 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when I first met him, I saw traits of my dad. And so, if for instance, like the fixer, the taking care of, the making sure secure. And so when I saw that, even my dad commented on that, or I made sure to comment back to my dad to say, hey, he does a lot of things you do, dad. Like he's like, oh, really?
Mm.
Kind of things. And so even to that, but as we were growing our relationship, and even now, my dad is also artistic. He's very artistic, and he used to write his hand, he used to draw things like that. And so I remember in our dating and he going it like he is a creative person and he uses his hands, and now he does editing work with animation and different things like that. So I see that side of him too. So seeing different traits of him fixing, of him just making sure we're taken care of now in our house, making sure he does like what is perceived as a man's role, right? Of what we have,
Mhm.
that is attractive to me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm an acts of service love language person. So he does all the things that I need as far as it when it comes to acts of service. In addition, his
Nice.
leadership too, that's very important because I am a person that is driven, I'm ambitious, I do a lot. If I hone down on something, I'm gonna go and run with it and try to make sure it happens. And so knowing that I could like essentially rest, when
Mm-hmm.
and not think about things and say, hey, can you handle it? Like, I'm just tired. Like, I don't want, like, he takes the leadership role in that. And not to say it was
Good.
easy for him to do all the things. Like, we had to learn how to do that together. Even spiritually, though, like, what we didn't talk about is him getting back into God when we met. So a lot of things he
Mm.
didn't know. I grew up in the church. So a lot of the things, the lingo, different things in traditional church, he was like, I don't know nothing about that. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so a lot of women sometimes tend to be like, well, I don't know. He got to make sure he pray. He got to make sure that he lift his hands and he
Mm.
got to do this, da, 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 da. And so everything has to be on him when essentially, sis, you know Christ too. Like you got Jesus in
Right.
you. There's different ways in you that can bring him in. We did that, and so now it's not that I worried. It was more of like, man, he can handle. He takes care of. He's looking at. He has that face. I don't know what he's why you made that face. But it's now he can lead. Like he leads the prayer. We do Bible studies together with our family. We I see him when we're leading small groups with our church, and like he's like, I got it. I can
Good.
take care of this. Like the growth is like tremendously far beyond. Like even him coming into doing this, I started off by myself coaching single women, and that was
Okay.
it. And then we started doing podcasting, and then I was like, man, we need a man's voice. We need to have somebody speak to the men too. Like I can speak to men, but if you speak
Good.
to men, so him even like being kind of like, I don't know, but now he's in it too. And he speaks more than me now. I don't even have to say nothing. He knows more than I
Good.
do about a lot of the things. So I think those are the traits that I'm like, okay, God, I see what you did. Like you look back like, I see why we're together, or why we lasted this long, why we're working together with this. So
That and also
Nice.
positions to do that because he threw me in a leadership role at church,
yeah.
and I didn't think I was ready for it, but I guess so.
Yeah, yeah, and I was working actually when we got engaged. I
Hmm.
started working with you in that position. It was like I was your partner in
Yep.
the ministry,
Yep.
working with you on that.
You said you were in a leadership role in the church.
Yeah. So basically, they called the wrong Daryl. They was calling for my dad, but they called me,
He's a
and
junior.
I'm a junior, so he's senior. But we didn't exchange who's who. So they asked, hey, because I had just signed up to be a greeter at church, and they was like, hey, we saw that you wanted to be a greeter. How about a captain position? I didn't think captain meant over like a group like that. I thought it was like kind of like
Mm.
small group kind of.
hmm
I thought they was just throwing the title out there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, come to find out, it was over 70 people. I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing this. But they was like, hey, I mean, well, we found out there was the wrong deal, but they was just like, well, if you still want to do it, I'm like, I'll do it. So yeah, I was over the greeter team.
Yep. And so I
Wow.
helped them with
Okay.
the admin
Yeah,
side
the
of
admin
it
side
because it
of
was
it.
a lot of
Yep.
Excel sheets and a lot of organizing
Yeah.
who's where, places to be. And so that was like our first.
Sending out emails.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "How you type up this email?" Like, I don't even know. And I'm like, "Okay, well, just give me what you
Yeah.
need, and I'll type the email up."
Yeah.
So,
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a big deal, like early on to
Yeah.
get in
Mhm.
that type of leadership role. Wow.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just supposed to be at the door. Instead, I'm telling people to go to the door.
Wow. How were you confident that you found the one?
Before I knew to ask is when she actually waited for me to get baptized. That's
Okay.
how I knew.
You want to share that story?
Yeah, I'm gonna share that story. I just know I made it more dramatic than what it was. I basically told her it's like, hey, I got something to tell you, but I need to get baptized first. And the reason was I do remember giving the reasons. Basically, I need to show God that I'm following Him and not just going off of what my feelings are and everything like that. Like basically, I'm putting Him before anything else. So I was like, I have to basically do this. And plus, baptism was my choice. Like I think I got baptized like 2 or 3 times. It was probably my third time when
Mhm.
I did it. First time was like my grandma did it, and then second time was like my dad basically had me get baptized, but none of them was like actually my choice to follow God. It was more like I was
Okay.
because my parents made me. This is my choice. This is my relationship with God. I need to do this before I do anything else. And it was basically me telling her I love her. So, but I was
Oh,
like, I'm not going to say that yet because I need to show my love for God.
Right. So this
okay.
whole time, he's like, I got something to tell you, but it's got to be after my baptism. And I'm like, so I'm up here, what he got to tell me? Like, you can't just drop that and then not. So I'm up here just not even knowing. I'm up here thinking the grandest of things or the lowest. I don't know. And then that's when, so after he got baptized, we were back outside of his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he said,
Yep.
so I was like, you gonna tell me? Like, the day is over.
So
Like,
you're like, all right, you got baptized. What you
all
got
right,
to
what you
say?
got to say?
Yeah.
So that's when essentially I guess that's the answer to the question. You
Yep.
knew already, and then that's when I knew that he was serious and that he was like the one for me too. Because I was like, okay,
Oh, okay.
he went through this
And-
as a way to show his love for Christ first. Now you're in order. He's like, I want you to, be the
Mm-hmm.
one I'm with. Right. So
Hmm.
It's been that way the whole time. I was
yeah.
like, hey, God first.
Yeah.
I see. This was the I love you,
Yep. Yep.
and
Mhm.
Yep.
this was in June.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, after that was go
Nice.
get your ring size.
Right. He would start asking questions and things like that. Ring size. We start talking. He was like, so if you were to get married, what month do you think we could? I was like, and I'm teaching at the time. So I'm like, please summertime. Cause and so it's easy.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of where the June came from,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where he
Okay.
planned the Christmas and the time. I said, I at least need 6 months. Like, give me 6 months of time to where I could plan a wedding at least.
Yeah,
Don't be dropping 3 months, like
you got your 6 months.
so.
Okay. But you knew in June that she was the one
Oh
that
yeah.
you wanted to. Okay. Wow. What advice do you have for people looking for love online? So you guys probably have really good advice. So what advice do you have for people looking for love? Who wants to go first?
So we talked about
You
this
did. We're trying to
yesterday
figure it
because we
out.
were like, how do we say this? Because we are building something for those who are looking, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
because we want to work one-on-one with folks too, but it doesn't matter. It's generally what we're going to say is things you do before you shop or things you should do before you shop, right? So in dating in general, you're shopping. But so before you shop, right, you need to have a plan. You need to, because why? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, what then happens? You go to the store and you up here trying to figure out you don't have no budget. You're
Nope.
not in the price guidelines of what you said you was going to leave out with. And so you didn't plan to prepare. You didn't pray. You didn't ask God about anything. You didn't put a basic list of your values, of your wants, of your desires, of who you envision. So essentially that is the basic step for it, right? For
Mm-hmm.
dating and before dating online. Did you have something to add to that? 'Cause I know I'm talking.
Oh no, you go on the right track. I was saying the recipe part because in order for you to know how to make the meal, what your meal look like, you need a recipe. And like you said with the shopping part, we got so many options on shopping
Mm-hmm.
where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you go online, you could go do a pickup order, you could do
Mm-hmm.
like that's kind of like what dating is right now. We got
Especially
so
online.
many options on dating online, meet up somewhere, blind dates, all this other stuff. It's just people need to make a list of not just like what they person look like. I'm talking about more of things that you need to have and work on your
Mm-hmm.
recipes because
Mm-hmm.
so you can pass that out. We got the recipes that pass down to generations.
Yeah.
Like something like that is stuff that you've worked on for yourself.
Yeah.
Get those done. So then when you actually do go shopping, you know what your boundaries are, you know what things to cross,
Mm-hmm.
what not to cross, all those things that work on yourself and not in a way to where it's like you go full therapy. If you need it, you need it. Just know who you are and what you want
Mm-hmm.
before you go out there, because then you'll know, like when you come across someone that actually has, certain stuff, like, okay, cool, let me go talk to them and actually see if they meet some of these stuff that I've been working on, and maybe they can kind of complement that.
Yeah. And in addition to just going back to like finding love online or using dating apps, there's this I don't know if I should. I'm a Christian. I don't. And
Mm,
the thing that we tell people is if you know yourself enough, you know what you can handle. So if you're
mhm.
battling with lust, right, this may not be the thing you need to do. Right, because you're scrolling through pictures, and if you are just based off of a picture, you know what you're going to do or where your heart is. This might not be the way you want to start off for yourself, right? But if that's not you, okay, then you may be. Just like you when you go shopping, right, for food. You don't go hungry, right? You shouldn't go hungry
Right.
because you go
Right.
hungry, you're going to so same as dating apps. How are you going? Are you in a season where, it's that time of the month and your hormones are out of whack, right? Should you be going on there when you're
Right.
emotional? Should you be going on there when there's comparison, or just because my friend is getting married, I need to find a date, or my
Mm,
family needs somebody? Where are you in this season? Okay. And then when you're navigating it, how long are you scrolling, right?
mm-hmm.
So if you're on there and you're doom scrolling, just like you do when you're on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, that's not how you supposed, that's not intentional. You just looking. That's not a way. Go in there, give yourself a time limit. How long you
Mm-hmm.
spend on here? How long should you spend on here? Right? Should it just be 5 profiles and I'm good? Right? So, or whatever. Should I just, okay, the intention is that maybe I can message one guy or one lady, and then I'll see how it goes from there, where you won't go too deep. The problem I think that it is the discipline. It's, are you
Right.
disciplined enough for this? Not are you Christian enough for this? Because anybody can say they're Christian and go ahead and do it. Are you disciplined? If you're not, check that. Right? Should you be
Right.
doing it? Period, point blank. And so I think that's now I'm not going to say that that's what we did or that's what I did, right? Because times have
Okay.
changed with dating apps and love online. It's not the same as it was before. There's algorithms, AI tools now. People can use
Mm,
AI to put a picture up now. You don't even know if it's real.
right.
So I get the
Mm-hmm.
over cautiousness, and I get how scary and fearful women and men are to figure out if this is the right avenue. This is why you don't meet somebody the day after y'all go out just because you met them online. Like, there's hoops to go through. What are we doing? Like,
Mm.
those are just a few things that we navigate with people in our group. There's people that we work with.
Okay, good. Good advice. So, what marriage advice do you have? You guys are about to celebrate 10 years. So, what marriage advice do you have?
To go along with the marriage advice, to go along with the dating to marriage advice for those who are listening, you could be single, you could be married, whoever you are listening to this, we've built something that's called the Intentional Love Blueprint, right? And so in that
Hmm.
blueprint is basically going off of our experiences, going off of how we encourage singles, we motivate them. It's like a process. So when you're working with us individually or in groups or in a coaching session, we kind of do a blueprint with you. So first is building the foundation, which is becoming whole. Like, who are you as a single person?
Hmm.
Who are you as a
Mm,
single person? Who are you in Christ? Are you kingdom or are you cultural? Like, what is it that we're navigating here when it comes to that? So, you want to start off with that phase along with the design phase. So, now it's like, how can I be intentional
Yeah.
when I'm looking for someone? What does that even look like nowadays? And honestly, it does change. Like, with time, it can change, right? And then we're moving to the committed connection, which is the exclusive phase. So when I am choosing someone and we're wanting to be committed, how do I navigate those waters? We know we want to be married. We know that we're intentional. We know that we're with Christ. Okay, cool. But how do we have these conversations? What are we talking about? How are we dealing with conflict? And what does that even look
mm-hmm.
like in a committed phase? Are we waiting till we're engaged to deal with conflict or to handle hard conversations? And
Mm,
then we're moving on to like finalizing your love story, which is like the end of the blueprint is like, okay, this is the engagement phase and journey to marriage. And so, what is that preparing for marriage? Right now, with a lot of singles, right now, they're like, I'm getting told everything. It's so much that we're hearing. Like, they're tired. They're sometimes tired of listening to us as coaches. They're like, I don't want to hear no more. Like, y'all been talking all the time. But that's when when you're in it is when you need it, right?
Right.
So, if you
Yeah.
feel like you're inundated with a lot, true, you could be. Maybe you need to take some time off. Maybe your algorithm is just taking you out so much. Like
Mhm.
it's not, and maybe it's not meant for you at the season. Maybe you're good. Sis and bro, maybe you fine. Maybe you good. But we got some other folks that are out here drowning. That they don't know what to do.
Right.
What's left
Right.
from right, up from down. They're out here trying to paddle and don't have a life vest on or anything like that. So it comes to that. So that then prepares for what you're asking for is marriage, because that's the main thing. You're not preparing for the wedding, you're preparing for the
Mhm.
actual marriage. And so what we
Right.
would say as marriage advice, and I'll go ahead and pass it to you, as what we do to help keep a healthy marriage and what we also help with couples with.
Well, I was going to say
Oh,
the main core thing with all this is the communication part. I know one
Mhm.
thing that's with each one, the foundation design, committed, and finalizing is the communication.
Yeah.
We try to help people build how to talk to others.
Good.
And not in a way kind of like this is how you hold a conversation. No, it's not like that. It's like a
mhm,
structured way to conversate, a structured way how to do disagreements and or agreements, whichever way it is. Because that's for us, that's like been the main core thing is the communication point.
Yeah.
Especially after we had got engaged, we learned how to actually communicate in a structured way. Like we had a way, but it was kind of loose, and it was just like, okay, we're still talking to each other, but there was still some things that probably needed to be said and stuff. But we ended up finding our way with basically check-ins, and that's been
Good.
yeah, like when we first started doing it, I think it was like weekly. We
mhm,
was doing it every week, checking
Hmm.
in with each other. So basically, we talk about our relationship, and then we talk about finances. We talk about spiritual growth. Give each other compliments, which that's my favorite part.
Good.
Before, I don't think we was. What did we have something in place before that last one?
mm-mm,
Okay, now we talk about sex with this one, but before, since we wasn't married, we didn't talk about sex.
Yeah.
There wasn't like,
Good.
but
nothing really talk
yeah,
about.
there's
Go
nothing
into
to talk about, right?
it.
But us doing that was basically like very helpful. Let us each other know where we was at with things and what we was doing,
Mhm.
like good or bad, just like let everything out, that kind of thing. And not in a way to where it's like I got a bone to pick with you,
Mm-mm.
but it was more like, hey,
Good.
this relationship, and it don't have to be our relationship. It could just be relationships that we have like with family members or something like that. So just any kind of relationship within that we talked about because sometimes those relationships influence our relationship
The
and
outside
the outside
elements,
stuff,
the
the
factors,
elements
yeah.
like that also lets
Right.
you know because I don't know if you ever experienced those where it's like a man will go through something with somebody else and then come home and be angry and you be like, what's going on? And he don't want to talk about it. But this is that moment to talk about it
Yeah.
because that also
Right.
influences on how you act towards the other person. And then with finances, basically like, hey, these are the bills that need to be paid. This is that. What things we need to pay for in the future. What we need to save up for. Hey, what's the 401k looking like?
Mm.
This all those conversations that we talk about money and usually the main thing my dad said that causes divorce is the finances. It's like so it's great to talk about those things right then and there. And then the spiritual growth. Although I say the compliments my favorite part, this is also my favorite part too because it's like you get to know where someone's at during that week or
Mhm.
month or something like that. Like, hey, I've been having a hard time or something like that. Like, I need prayer or like, hey, this is what I heard from God. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I read this week. Oh, pastor said something, and that really hit me. And that although sometimes we talk about that in there, but it's still helpful to know where your spouse is during that time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we may not know. It's like they could be falling the whole time, and you never asked them
Yep.
anything spiritually.
Or they're not vulnerable. They don't have a place, a safe place to bring it. And a
Mm.
spiritual spot where you're just not when you're heated, you bring it up. It's
Yeah,
when you're just like you just y'all on neutral zone. It's fine to bring this up now,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you're not pushing
Right.
buttons.
yeah.
And so that's why we tell people to schedule it out, put it on the calendar. It's switched from weekly to bi-weekly. Now we do whenever we can with the kids and
Yeah,
schedules and activities, but we still have it. We're still intentional about having it. So, and the one thing I say is like, how can we teach people how to have an intentional dating relationship?
Mm-hmm.
We're not intentional married, and showing this. We got to be
Right.
examples. And so this is our way of like, we're trying to be intentional so that we can show you how to live an intentional life, through God, of course, as example, through biblical perspective. What does that look like? So the best way is to show it and to teach it, right? So that's one of
Good.
the ways that we get that out to the people.
Mm. And then we end off with
Oh,
compliments.
my bad.
One of the reasons why I said compliments is my favorite part because one, I like compliments. Two, it's
Yeah.
also a way to kind of like let that person know, like, hey, you are doing good.
Mhm.
You are doing
Mm-hmm.
this and that. Because sometimes a lot of men don't hear that.
Mhm.
A lot of men don't
Right.
hear, like, you know what, I did enjoy that you fixed the water heater or something like that.
Mhm.
Like, thank you for that. Like, sometimes we don't receive those thank yous. This is that time to receive that. And on both ends, because sometimes women don't hear nothing from the men either. Like,
Right.
They
what
might be
come
they might be affirmations person too.
right. So this is that time to actually not say it's like a force, but it's like, oh, you know what? Actually, let me think back. Yeah, you know what? Let me give you a compliment for
Small to the big
small,
stuff.
big stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, especially if you had a heated conversation during finance, you can still give a compliment later on.
Yeah, I definitely teach the compliments. It's a
Good.
big deal in relationships. So that's
Yeah.
good that you guys are teaching that too. That's
Yeah.
Mhm.
good. So then the final question is, what is your favorite part about being married? What's your favorite part? Let's go first.
Oh, you got me? Okay. I don't have to worry. That's my
Hmm.
favorite part. I don't have to
Mhm.
worry. Other than, family members and friends and family, that those relationships, but I don't have to worry about basically anything other than what I have right now.
Mhm.
That's it. And taking care of my family and taking care of her. That's it. I think for men that's the biggest part because before it's like, oh, okay, I gotta worry about myself. I gotta worry about this. I gotta worry about that. Now it's just like that worry is not just on me, but it's
Hmm.
also less.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I just have to just basically, okay, hey, this is what's going on, boom, 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 and then we can both take care of it. Or either that, like, hey, I need your help, with encouragement with me doing this. Like that's the biggest thing, and I hear that a lot from from other single men where it's just like, man, it's like, man, I want to be in your shoes because I get to do this and this and this, and it's like it's a lot, and it is a lot.
Supposed to.
Hmm.
Yes, it's supposed to be, but
Mhm.
even though marriage is difficult, it's not going to be easy. I'll tell you that now. It's not going to be easy, but it's very enjoyable,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
that's one of the main parts I love about it.
Good.
Yeah, for me, I think I know we're getting away from where marriage is seen as a flex. Like it's like, oh, I'm
Hmm.
being single now is better than being married to some people out there. And because they don't see
Hmm.
the good, they don't see the healthy. And so that's why I encourage, even if married couples aren't out and about and health, or well, if they're healthy, I should say this, to share your story, to talk about the ins and
Yeah.
outs, because that'll help encourage singles and people out there who've been through even divorcees or widows, that's helping people want to be. And I would say also that I enjoy just there's so much there's broken marriages out there now. There's things like I enjoy the part to where we're able to see our children look and see what a healthy marriage looks like. At least we try, right? To be
Hmm.
examples in that. And so I think
That's
us
good.
being able to be examples to our kids where they
Mm-hmm.
honestly right now they're so innocent right now. They don't know. They bring up questions to where they see other things in their friends and their parents where they're like, oh, such and such doesn't have their mommy in their household or doesn't have a daddy in their household. Like they don't know
Hmm.
that they think that you're supposed to have, which you are, it's weird to them when they don't see a husband and a wife. I think just being able to bring them up to like, listen, this is what we're trying to do. So we have to make sure we're one and we're
Hmm.
under God so that we can show them how they can be, and so we have a son and a daughter, and so we're trying to make sure that we're showing them, what it looks like to have healthy conversations and
Mhm.
how to live a life for Christ and all that. So I think that's what marriage brings. It's like it's so much fruit
Hmm.
in it. You don't even know how
Yeah.
much fruit it is until you really reflect and think about it. What people are seeing, even we're like in the first generation in our family, really to get married, how we did, being absent all the way up until like that is something that is not common in both sides of our family.
Yeah.
And so being
Wow.
able to do that and say like you can wait until marriage or you can do this intentionally or whatever, like this is we're building, we're making it different, we're breaking generational patterns. So that's what makes it good for me.
Yeah, I love that. So those were all of my questions. Were there any stories or things you want to bring up that I missed, or was there anything a part of your story that you
Um,
wanted people to know about?
Well, depending on when this comes out, we're planning right now our next intentional Christian dating event. It'll be in March. And
Oh
so
yeah.
that'll be time for people, men, Christian single men and women to jump on board, to come and just enjoy the events we have to and play for that. So we do have that's coming up. So I think that's one thing. I don't know if you have anything.
Oh no, actually, I was about to say that, but you got it.
Okay, yeah. And so if they follow us and we get more details in our group or on social media, we'll have all the info shortly. We're building all that now.
Okay, I was going to ask you like how do they find out about it, but just to follow you guys, we'll make sure to put something in the comments or description
Yes.
that points to the event.
Thanks so much for watching. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more real life love stories from couples who met on dating apps. And if you're ready to find your own person, I've linked some free resources below to help you get started. See you in the next video.